Hello everyone. So this is our Google Classroom tutorial just to help us understand how to create a classroom and some of the other basic features that we need. So just to begin with, how to create the classroom, we go to this plus button here, click on the plus button, and then just on there we have join class, which is what your students will use to be able to join your classroom, and then we have create a class. So if we click on create a class, really good to start with by putting the year group that the classroom is in. So for example, Y904, and then the subject, followed up by, if you feel that it's necessary, your initials. Now you might want to use your initials if, for example, there's more than one person who is teaching that form group or that set. Then it might be a situation where you would like to have more than one person so that you can keep it separate if that's something you feel that you need. Then we have the subject, if you wish to place that in, and then the room number can also be helpful just for the students, especially at the beginning of the term. So when we click on create, and when we click on create, it will then create for us a new classroom. Okay, you will then have on here, this is the kind of landing page, this is the stream, and this is where lots of the communications will be housed. Now it will keep any kind of comments in the stream that you've given to the children or the children have responded back. It will also put on here the classwork that you have assigned. Now actually, whilst that might think that that's quite a good thing, actually over the course of a year that can be something that's quite confusing because then you have general comments as well as the actual assignments, and what will happen is that the children will end up going to the stream rather than going to the classwork area to be able to access the learning that you've put in place for them. So a good way for us to get rid of that is to click on the settings button and then scroll down, and as we scroll down here we've got classwork on stream. If we click on this button here, this drop down, and at the bottom we have hide notifications. Now what that will do is that will mean every time that you put an assignment on the classroom, it will not post it on the stream. So it will just keep the stream for any communications, and then if the children want to access any of their learning, they will need to go to the classwork area, which is what we want them to do. You can also see just underneath that it has guardian access. Now what this will do is this will allow our parents and carers to receive a kind of summary of the learning that's taken place within the week. So if we toggle this on, you can do it just for your class, for that individual class, or you can do it for all of the classes that you teach. It's up to you what you decide to do with that, but it is a very useful tool for the parents so that they can get a kind of run-in summary of all of the tasks that you've submitted, when the due dates for those are, so that they can help to manage the children's learning outside of the school. There are lots of other bits of information and settings that you can set up on here. Okay, so feel free to have a look through this before the start of the year so that you know what it is that you would like, how you'd like to configure your classroom. And then we press save, and that will keep that loaded there, and then we are back to the stream. Now something else to consider is when your children start the class in the first lesson, one of the things that are very easy to do is to just get the children to log into their Google Classroom, and earlier on you remember we had that plus button where we could create the class. They would click on the plus button and click on the join class, and then if you just have this class code up on the first lesson, children can then join your classroom and then have access to the things that you have put in place for them there. So that's something that's very helpful for you to have. So then in the classwork area, now obviously at the moment on this classroom there isn't anything here, but in order for you to create an assignment, you press the create button. You can create an assignment, you can create a quiz. If you have kind of a question that you want to ask the children, so say for example you wanted to do a poll, for example, to gather information about what the children were thinking about a particular topic. Say for example in terms of a pre-teaching tool of being able to know what they know and what they don't know about a particular topic before the lesson. That's something that you might want to use the question for. You can add materials on there. You can also, if you have, for example, put an assignment on in one classroom that is a different classroom to the one that you're in, you could click on the reuse post. You can see access to all of the classes that you have, and then you can go into one of those classes and then select, in fact let me just show you one that has learning on them, and then you can then click that and click on the reuse, and then what that will then do is that it will create a copy of that assignment in this classroom. Okay, so this screen that we're on now is the same of what you would see if you were creating a classroom independently. The only thing that is different is that this has already got the title pre-populated. So if you just clicked on an assignment, this would be blank, as would the documentation be blank as well. So I'll just show you what that looks like. So clicking on create, clicking on assignment, and you can see there that those fields are blank now. So again, very good thing to do is to put the date of the lesson. So for example, if I just put today's date here, okay, and then what you would do is it's good to have the lesson that it would be. Okay, so lesson 4, for example, and then the unit name. Okay, so then that will help the children to kind of keep track of which one it is. Now in the instructions area, this is where you would want to be able to include any instructions for the class, maybe any context that you feel that they might need, or any kind of information that you think is going to help them to access the learning. It's also potentially a good idea there to put any links to any learning that they have, because it is clickable if you include it in the instruction area. We can also add links, as you can see just down here, as part of an attachment, which is also a useful tool to use. You can attach files from the drive, you can use YouTube videos, you can attach or start a new document, or you can upload them from your drive. Now over here in the bottom left, we've got having notebook LM. So if you've created any notebooks, then this is something that you can attach directly inside the assignments, so that the children do not have to go to anything external. And the same for the gems. Okay, so if you wanted to create, I don't know, say a Socratic teaching support assistant, you can create one there, attach it as a gem, and it will be within inside that topic. Okay, so I'm just going to show you quickly what it will be like to add a new doc. So I'm going to add express create, click on the doc, and then it will load up a new doc, and then I can populate this doc with whatever information it is that I would wanted to include for that lesson. Really important on this part here, just to make sure that you label it correctly. So having that as the lesson that it is, and then also adding on to that, for example, the date or the unit, okay, so that the children know where, again, what assignment this document is linked to. Okay, so now that we've got that signed, I can go back to the Google Classroom. Now in here, you can see that it hasn't synced across yet. It will do that once I post the assignment, but I can have this document as a document where all of the children can view this document, but they can't edit it in any way. Or we could have it so that they can all view the same document and they can all edit on that document. So if there was any kind of collaboration that you wanted, that would be the best thing to do. Or we can have it set up so that it is one document for each child, and it will make a copy of that document for each child in the class, so they have their own independent one. Now, over here we have the topic area. Now this is really important because we want the children to be able to have a clear hierarchy really of the lessons that they're doing and the topics that they're within. So for example, I would want to have this learning all in the binary folder, if you want to think of it like that. So I would label this topic as binary. We can also have a due date of when we would like this to be handed in by. So let's say I want to give it by the Friday. Click OK. You can also have a time that you want the submission by, okay, as the deadline, and then you can see there that it will just create that due date. I can assign it straight away so that the children can see it on their Google Classroom, or I can schedule it by clicking on that drop down, and I can schedule it there, click on the calendar, and then identify when I would like it to go live for. And then once I've got that, I'm going to, let me just change the configuration of my page so I can see that part there, which is a good thing to be able to see. Sometimes you will need to zoom out a little bit. Click on the time when you want it to be scheduled for, and then press schedule, and then that will upload it onto the children's schedules there so that they can see it. Now you can see for this top one, it's got no topic, which was the one that I had reused from another session from before. And then it's got the binary topic, and then all of the binary lessons. It's really helpful for the children if they're all underneath that folder area. Okay, so that is the posting and creating of assignments. Then if we want to think about the grading of assignments, I'm just going to go through to a different lesson. So just along the side here, you've got all of the classes that you teach. So I'm just going to go to this one here. Again, this is what I was mentioning earlier on, where you can see that you have the lesson for the assignment that is actually on the stream, and this is what the children will go to lots of the time, which is what we do not want them to do. So we don't want that on the stream, which is the reason why going on that settings area and removing that option is a good thing. And then we can click on the classwork, and then you can see that that's the lesson that is within there. Now what we can do is we can mark this by clicking on the grades, and then this is where I have the lesson. For that I can see which children I've marked already, although I haven't returned this to the children, so it's just a draft at the moment. So I can click on that classroom, I can then click on the child submission over here, and then it will bring it up for me. I can then have a look at what they've done. Now they haven't actually received this piece of learning here, so they haven't done anything with it, but if they had completed it in the correct way, I can add the grading. Remember that 100, it means that they've done everything that they needed to do for that lesson, and then I can add any private comments or anything like that to them, whether that would be the positive comment and then what it is that I want them to work on. That could also be done by a voice recording, or if I think that they needed a bit of extra modeling or extra support, I can click on the the recording of video, or I could click on the screen recording to give them a kind of model walkthrough of what it is that they are lacking currently in their learning, and then the instructions for them to then be able to achieve that afterwards. So once I have completed my marking for this, I then would return it back to the child, and then they would get a submission back to say that it has been marked, and it would have the comments or whatever and draw that to their attention. Okay, so that's the kind of way that the process would work. You can do multiple children at the same time. Not really something that I need to do at this time, but that is an option for you if any of you are in that position where you would find that a useful tool to use. Right, so hopefully that's been quite an easy, and you can see the way that it can be used quite efficiently, quite quickly, to help us with grading the children's learning, assigning their learning on the Google Classroom, and organising that so that it's very easy for the children to navigate with the due dates and all of those types of elements included within it. Okay, so best of luck, see you then, bye bye.